that strange music?
I was 3 years old. I went to the piano and I said, "Oh, there you are." And I've never stopped playing.
Da, da, da. That's lovely. And that was John Morris, right? He wrote it. Nice guy. Very talented, nice guy.
John Morris, a genius. A genius.
Throughout movie history, there have been a handful of director-composer teams. You can't think of their work separate from each other. Steven Spielberg and John Williams, Bernard Herrmann and Alfred Hitchcock, and John Morris and Mel Brooks. Those two made a team between 1968 and 1991, and you can't imagine those Brooks films without those Morris scores.
That Mel Brooks was lovingly spoofing are films that the music is so firmly entrenched with. John Morris is so brilliantly able to capture these sounds. And without that, Mel Brooks's films would not be as complete as the films he was spoofing.
What a dramatic airport.
I never try to copy anybody. If it gets in, it's an accident. But I know, as a composer, I know what these guys do.
His humor is very subtle. So frequently, people who don't know him very well don't get things. But I do, because I've been there.
He was a graduate of Juilliard. He was actually headed for a career in sort of as a concert pianist at one point. I think where he found his niche, though, was in the 1950s when he started to work on Broadway, writing dance music, writing original music.
I wrote for everybody. Agnes DeMille, Gower Champion, Bobby Fosse, Jerome Robbins.
The fact that John Morris came from Broadway is no surprise, because you have to have that extra sense of theatricality to be able to keep up with Mel Brooks.
I think Dr. Ashley was a victim of foul play.
Mel Brooks and I met. We were circulating in New York and always crossing, but then the first work that I did with him was Shinbone Alley, a very strange show. Then Mel and I were called in to doctor the existing show, and we worked very hard, and it still was no good. Then when he asked me to do the dance arrangement for the producers, I said, sure.
It wasn't even called The Producers then, it was called Springtime for Hitler. Nobody wanted to touch it. But I told him all about that, so we became friends.
Morris was going to write the arrangement for Springtime for Hitler, which of course was a pivotal moment in the producers.
We did the arrangement, and Mel loved it, so he asked me then to score the film. I didn't know what scoring was. I always taught myself every step of the way.
It was masterful, masterful. My heart starts to soar once more. Key change, high anxiety. It's always the same.
Mel Brooks, first of all, he's a composer, you know. He writes scores. He was a drummer, which means that he understands rhythm. He loves music, so he's a big help.
Young Frankenstein is unparalleled in the sense that it's one of the greatest, if not the greatest, score he ever wrote. From the very first frame of that picture, the music lends a whole different dimension to the picture that it might not have had otherwise.
How would you score Young Frankenstein? You could do it with Oogie Boogie music. You have to set it up dramatically. But it's only 2 or 3 notes. That's all you need. And then you can go to the theme.
The movie starts with that theme, and you kind of go like, is this going to be a comedy? Because it's just gorgeous music.
Oh, I love it. I love that brilliant, beautiful John Morris theme on a violin.
It was Brooks's idea to write a Middle European lullaby that would in some way represent the monster's childhood.
He said, I want you to write for Young Frankenstein the most beautiful lullaby that has ever been heard. Now it's clear. And I said, well, it must be the monster's inner life.
You had a first-rate studio violinist named Jerry Vinci who gave it just the right vibrato, and this piece of music has actually been picked up and played by today's classical violinists. For example, the great Gil Shaham has actually done this on a collection of great violin pieces not very long ago. So it's not just an effective piece of film music, but it's obviously been recognized as a great work in and of itself.
He just plays it straight. And the music itself, because sometimes it's that kind of gypsy dance, kind of the pizzicato strings and then the woodwinds, it played some of the comedy really well, but it's really straightforward.
You can only score the heart of something and its emotion. If you try to be funny, you're dead.
If you intend to be funny, it's not funny. You've got to be earnest.
Come over here, you hot monster. What is it? What's the matter? Is it that music?
There's that great moment near the end of the film. Boyle is lured away from Madeline Kahn's bed with this, again, wonderful violin piece. And before long, we realize that he's climbing up the side of the castle because Gene Wilder is playing it on the violin.
You got to have a big, wonderful climax. And either you have written that or you haven't.
Don't touch him! He wants to do it by himself! You can do it! You can do it! Please, my creation!
In my mind, he's done a lot of work, and he's done a lot of brilliant work, but it is his best. I mean, you couldn't have asked for anything better.
One of Morris's most daunting tasks was scoring silent movie. I have to believe that when he saw this, he just thought, oh my God, what am I in for? Because it was a silent movie and therefore required nearly an hour and a half of almost continuous music.
I would look at the pile of music, and no matter how much we recorded, the pile of music never got any smaller.
Silent movie as a score is really, really brilliant. It begins with this wonderful march for the three guys, Mel Brooks, Dom DeLuise, and Marty Feldman, running all over town trying to get together a cast for this movie.
The march would fit the three characters in the movie, and they're always going somewhere and always doing something. And if you want to make a composer happy, you can tell him to write a Hollywood theme. So first of all, you're going to have thousands of strings, and you're going to have an excess of slop and beauty. It was easy. It took me about 5 minutes when you're scoring a film. The original emotion is terror. So you make a pact with yourself that you're going to always say yes. Then when you start the work, it all falls into place. But then you decide what is really proper for the film. Sometimes it's only a guitar. Sometimes it's a 100-piece orchestra. The method of scoring, I can't tell you. You just do it by the seat of your pants.
He's also a really talented dramatic composer. He has 2 Oscar nominations, one of which he shared with Mel Brooks for the title song of Blazing Saddles. But his other Oscar nomination is for the haunting score he wrote for a film that Brooks produced called The Elephant Man. It's really, really a masterpiece.
John Morris's style over the years, I would say, is like jack of all trades, master of all. Never overdoing it, never underdoing it.
He's very sensitive, very thoughtful, very bright person.
Life presents different things at different moments. I can try to do anything. Some things are better than others, but then I do my best.